Hello, 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 everybody. Hello, how are you doing? Can I get a hi in the chat for anybody who can see me? Okay, we'll just go with that. Anyway, today we're going to be discussing writing, and specifically writer's block. Let's see. Thank you, World of Planetos. We're also going to have a pair of excellent guests. Please welcome Agent Yokai Zero to the chat. The stream.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yep, and I am also going to add a third guest to my stream. Please welcome Neph Champion.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Well, today is going to be pretty special. I am just going to share my screen real quick. I wonder if this is going. Let me try something real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Alrighty. So has everybody here heard of a Prezi before?
I haven't actually, no.
It is a presentation tool that I've used fairly frequently, and I'm going to be using it today because I quite enjoy utilizing it.
Neph, you may want to watch out. Dr. Crow just realized you're a girl and he's simping hard.
Yeah.
I knew that was probably going to be not so much of a problem, but yeah. I don't mind getting compliments.
Crow, no, there's not. There's not a stream that I am not on anymore. I will ensure that I attend all of them, every last one of them.
He is the ubiquitous element. Why is this thing taking so long to load?
Oh, I'm flattered, Crow. Thank you.
Yeah. Come on.
What are you trying to do?
Who,
it's
me?
Loading.
What are you loading up?
I'm loading up my Prezi. I'm hoping. Let me share my screen, see if that helps. Yeah. So a Prezi is actually something like a moving presentation. Basically, you're moving around a specific little area.
Mm-hmm.
And you, let me see. I hope it's loading okay. Maybe I just need to. Oh dear, Chrome is now not responding. That's stupid.
It happens.
Let's see.
Yeah.
That's one of the main reasons I haven't migrated to Chrome on my new laptop yet. I'm still using Edge because it seems to be compatible with everything seamlessly. Even though I prefer Chrome.
I think part of it is the issue is I have like an old computer. I need to upgrade. It can't handle multiple tabs, partially because my Windows 10 has eaten up like 8 gigabytes of space. And now I'm down to nothing. I have to use an external hard drive.
Oh dear. That can be hard.
Yeah, I recently purchased a new laptop, a new headset, everything, and best purchase decision I've ever made. Because, I mean, I'm here. So surely I've made the right decisions. Well, my old laptop just probably never would have worked out, at least not nearly as smoothly. And my old headphones, no thanks.
Yeah, I just turned off Discord on my laptop. Hopefully that'll help.
One thing that makes stuff like this relatively stress-free, it really does make a difference, is not even having to make those smaller decisions, because they add up. Like, oh,
yeah.
I need to mess and manage with my audio devices. Oh, I need to close this because my laptop can't handle it. Oh, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
When you get the chance, get yourself something nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
That way you don't have to be compulsive anymore.
I recently upgraded myself because my laptop was going really, really slowly, and I had games that I wanted to play, but I was afraid to play them on my laptop because of how old my laptop is, and it was already slowing down, and I couldn't watch streams on it at all, not live. So yeah, I really love my new computer.
It's part of the positive experience, because that's really what this is. You're not just performing for the people around you. You're performing for yourself. I have the lights dimmed. I'm listening to some, what's this called? Peaceful piano and soft rain, relaxing sleep music. Listen to that. Bless you. And, you know, I have my headphones all customized. It should be a fun experience. The moment it becomes aggravating is the moment it's time to get something new.
Yeah, I completely
But you got to
agree.
make sure you're in the right situation to do so.
That too.
Right.
Looks like we've got it.
Yep, I believe so. Welcome. At least I hope this.
Also, I want to read this before it gets lost in the shuffle here, by Drake the Duelist. First law of Agent Yokai Zero: take the name of Batman in vain, and he will appear. Yes, that is very much accurate.
Alrighty. So first, we have our introduction. What is going on?
Let's do it. And take your time. This is your first official stream, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I recall your last one was a test, right?
Yep, the last one was a test. This is the open book. I used the open book particular. I probably should have changed it to writer's block, but live and learn. Let me see. Alrighty. So, alrighty. Introduction. So this is just what this stream is going to be about. We're going to be chatting writer's block and how to overcome it. I'm also going to be ranting about Artemis Fowl, and Yokai Zero and Neph Champion will be my Dragon Boy and Blessed Essed Stuckman in this analogy, if any of you have seen his Game of Thrones rant. And I will be giving a dramatic reading of one of my books, Storm of Shadow. I'm just going to be reading the prologue for you guys. That sound good to everybody?
That sounds great.
Perfect to me.
Alrighty. All right. First line of business.
It looks like, let's see here.
First
looks like
topic.
Gary Stu would like to join in.
Oh, Gary. Oh, okay.
Well, I have stuff that helps with lack of focus, at least.
It looks like he's mainly focusing on the Artemis Fowl Rant.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll have him hop in around there.
Okay. Yeah. That would be great. I will definitely do that.
Let's get started.
Finally. Yeah. So I've kind of boiled based on like what I understand, what a writer's block that I've experienced, it kind of falls into three types. You either get apathy, where you just kind of just don't feel like writing. You have a lack of focus, like in terms of like either you have a lot of projects going on, either in writing, or you have a lot of projects that are like outside of writing that you have to deal with, and so you kind of writing gets lost in the shuffle, or you kind of feel discouraged because you don't quite feel like your stuff is up to snuff. Is that a fair assessment of some of the types, or is there anything anybody would like to add?
That is a fair assessment. I've had problems with discouragement and lack of focus. Not so much apathy until like really recently, and that was simply because of outside factors.
Mm-hmm.
What usually happens to me is a perceived necessity for perfection. It very much slows me down, not only in writing, but in just about everything that I do, something I've been trying to work on. And oddly enough, that was part of the reason why I made this new account, because you see, this was the first time I allowed someone else to really help me create something. So I'm sort of becoming more laid back, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Go for it, Neph.
lack of focus isn't really so much of a problem for me because I find that I have several writing projects going at the same time. And sometimes, if I'm having trouble working on one, I will not have problems working on another one. So sometimes switching between projects helps with writer's block.
That's funny. I had the same kind of thing happen to me, but it's a little more specific in that I was working on a very large scale project. And when I say large scale, I don't mean in quality. Rather, I mean that it was a very broad, low resolution idea where I didn't have the specifics quite lined up yet. It was very Lord of the Rings-esque. I was building an entire world. And the thing about writing a fantasy epic of that magnitude is that you need to be someone that has experience, I've come to decide.
Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I have it. I was writing it with like a physical pen, and the book is sitting on my desk in the hallway right over there, actually. And I decided to let it sit because I realized one day that I wasn't ready to write it. I think I'm going to give that a good, I don't know, 10 years, because I haven't even written one full story yet. And that's something that I can't do until I've learned how to, first of all, create in an efficient manner. And second of all, publicize my creations in an efficient manner. And I'm still learning how to do either of those things. I mean, I'm only 23 years old. These things take time to learn. Unless you're a one-hit wonder, like I think the Divergent author was, 16? But again,
and
that was like...
And the author of Aragon was only 19 when they
actually he
published theirs. So
he was actually 14.
Really? The back of the book said
exactly.
19.
So
Oh,
there
really?
certainly are exceptions. But I don't think that's something that I should come to rely upon. I want to make sure that I do things right, but in a manner that's efficient, not just trying to be perfect or spend years creating something that may never get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So then it just so happened that Literature Devil, because I attend his streams all the time, he had a Let's Write a Manga thing going on. It was like a writer's workshop. So I joined in on it, and he sort of just had this little, it was much like somewhat of a game, really. And all of us just kind of made our own little versions of it. I broke the rules quite a bit. But despite that, being given principles to work by, like being given those specific limitations, it was a much higher resolution project, because now I had more specific questions to ask myself. Instead of just what would be an interesting story, it was how can I make this character that has these defined attributes interesting.
Yes.
And I had questions like that, and then I was able to produce Wizard Slayer. I wrote it in like a night.
I certainly hope that gets published, because what you had is really good. It is.
Thank you. I've been editing the prologue a little bit, but the main reason, because this was the first time that I wrote something where I actually was excited enough about it to, instead of wanting to go back and make it perfect, I just wanted to write the next chapter, which now I still haven't done, but there is a reason for it. And it's because I've been putting a lot of thought into what the next chapter is going to be about. I've decided it's going to be on the villains, and it's going to be a bit of a complementary chapter to the prologue. It's going to emphasize a theme of juxtaposition, and the prologue, it kind of just speaks for itself. It's much like a pilot.
Yeah.
And that the reason why I'm editing it a little bit is because I want to make an audio book of each chapter. And I know that one thing that Devil told me was that he would actually like to he's going to go ahead and show it on his stream. I didn't even ask him. He offered to do it. And then I got hella excited. So I'm like, okay, great. Now I want to make it great. So that's why. But I am really excited about it, and that, this is the first time I've had an organized community to work within. I'm not used to that. So.
I'm used to working on my own too. I mean, I have had writing partners, and I do have betas that come in every once in a while to look over what I'm writing, but mostly it's just me.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, what I've come to find recently is that despite being used to working alone all the time, I've recently come to discover that when I allow people to help me, I become much more efficient and competent. Now, whether it's due to some form of emotional catharsis or just overall personality, what have you, we could talk for hours about it, but that's not really the point, is it? Really, the point is just, it seems to be working. Let's do it.
Yeah. I think one interesting thing about what you're kind of talking about is kind of sometimes like the amount of stuff that you feel like you need to do overwhelms you. Is that correct? And you kind of need somebody to help, like to kind of at least help you to understand, like, okay, here's where you're doing, here's what you're doing right, here's maybe some stuff that you could improve on, and kind of getting that feedback. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly what it is. I think that I'm a better writer than world builder. I think that world building overwhelms me, and then I start to panic because I think that it means I can't write, and I get confused between the two separate goals of world building and writing, because the world building, that's the world that the story you're writing occurs within. And the building of the world, well, again, that's where the story takes place, but those are two separate things that you're constructing, right? So I think that, because you see, like I said, when I had Devil somewhat building that world for me, which was something I hadn't really had done before, it made it much less overwhelming and more exciting. But one thing you have to keep in mind is, if you want to work with someone to construct your worlds in the future, you have to take into consideration, I broke a lot of rules there. So it would have to be someone that's very lenient. But what I was thinking on it was one thing that Peterson said that really helped me with Wizard Slayer in particular, was he said that, well, it's that if you want to make a joke out of it, you can pretty much summarize it all under that quick jab that Devil always throws out in the streams, where Jordan Peterson says something along the lines of, what is it? He's like, you can't even write and you think you have a style.
Yes, that's it.
And it's in this, I actually have a document pulled up here. I don't really have to find the text because I already remember it, but along the writing guide for his essays that I have pulled up, one of the things that he says that has helped me very much so is that you should never break the rules of writing until you have first mastered them. And I think that translates really well to what happened with me for that that, you know, it was just a writer's workshop, but it's not something I'm used to. And I think that here it was like someone gave me some rules to follow. So with Wizard Slayer, I was following those rules. I broke some of them, but I think that's actually a good sign, especially since he seemed to like it. And so, you know, but the reason I bring it up is because I was given some rules to follow. And then when I felt comfortable with those rules and they didn't feel strenuous, it was like, it's weird. It's like a physiological sensation where I had this emotional catharsis telling me, you know what? You feel comfortable enough with this. Have fun with it. So there were certain characters that were lower resolution than other characters, but the ones that were really high resolution, like Wizard Slayer himself, I'm noticing, now that I think about it right now, it just occurred to me. So characters that appeared for longer periods of time and more often, I broke the rules with more than characters that weren't on the screen as much, so to speak. So it's like I was so comfortable with those specific rules that I was ready to break them a little bit. And was it premature? Maybe, but it worked, didn't it? So it's like, I think
Certainly
that
made it
maybe
interesting.
I have a feeling, or at least I hope so, that it's going to escalate from there, where it's like, okay, I had someone give me some of those rules. Next time I'm going to do it again. Maybe I'll break the rules a little bit more. So I'm going to finish this story. I'm going to commit. Then next time I do something, I'll break the rules a little bit more than last time. And then maybe, like, I don't know, 10 years from now, when I'm 32, 33, somewhere along the line, when I've learned how to manage my ability to create and how to manage the entrepreneurship of publicizing those creations, and my life is a little more stable, it's like, okay, maybe now I can sit down and write this epic I was thinking about 10 years ago. And then I'll
That
pull out that dusty old book and I'll get to work on it.
that's actually kind of funny because I'm in the middle of writing something that's ended up being epic simply because of the length.
Mm.
Let's see, my first, no, not first, my second one, because I'd finished one before this for a different fandom. My first fic of this kind was something along the lines of 330,000 words altogether. And then the second installment was about 100, couple thousand words less than that.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
obviously, I find writing to be easier than some people. And I say easier because writing is not easy.
No, it's definitely not. It's a hard task.
Are you
Uh,
are you trying to articulate that you feel less strain when writing than you imagine most people do?
Partly I find it cathartic because
Word of the day, catharsis.
let's do
because,
that.
well, the first thing I ever finished that is not really what I want to be known for, I wrote in like 3 days after I lost someone. So writing really, really helped.
Yeah.
And that was when I was still a teen. So, is it any good? I really doubt it. I'm so much better than I was when I was still in school.
I would agree. Practice makes expertise. Maybe not perfection, but expertise.
Yes.
My writing kind of started when I was 14. My dad said, "Hey, you have all these stories in your head. Why didn't you write one down?" So I did. I wrote like 100 pages in 3 months. It's definitely not good. And if I ever go back to it, I will be heavily editing it to say, no, this this was not good. It's highly derivative of a lot of things, and it's the prose is terrible. The characters don't really have flaws. Dialogue's really bad. That sort of thing. But my problem most often with writer's grop is kind of a lack of focus. Like I'll kind of get bored with a specific book for a while after I write it, and then like I'll be like, okay, I got this other idea, and I want to write about it, and I write it, and then I lose interest, then I move to another idea. And lately,
now here's how I overcame that specific problem, but I want to let you finish first.
Okay. Yeah, but what basically what I did was I figured out, okay, let me kind of pick and choose a specific number of my closest to finished books, put them into a conveyor belt, and then just rotate through them. That's what
I do, actually.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it seems like that's kind of the thing that most people do. Let me move to the next bit.
What I did when I noticed, because I had this problem for a long time, is I would never finish anything. My father was the one who told me that. He said, you have a habit of never finishing anything. Why don't you try writing short stories? But the problem with that is that I'm not satisfied with short stories. So I thought, okay, how can I solve this issue? And it was a combination of things. But it all boils down to being involved in a workshop. This was new to me. This whole community is new to me. You think I know what I'm doing? No. I'm used to workshops where I'm at a university surrounded by people that are nothing like me, that I quite frankly can't stand. It's not sustainable, is it?
No.
Now, this is a little bit different, especially since it's in the comfort of my own home. I can manage it. Even when I'm on the go working out, I have my phone with me. So it's very me. And the most specifically what I did was not only did I go along the guidelines of the Let's Write a Manga workshop, but I also, it was around shortly after that, I was working really hard on it. I was thinking about, I want this to have a future. What if I figured out how I can hire an artist? What if I really committed to finishing the story? So the writing is done. I can hire an artist. I can learn how to work this Indiegogo platform and what have you. And not only that, but then that was around the time when Devil had this announcement on one of his streams that he said there was one slot open for you to have a one-pager in Dr. Alpha. So I purchased it, and I told him I'd like a one-pager featuring Wizard Slayer, and now I'm committed.
Nice.
Because now I'm financially obligated. And I'm very conscientious when it comes to my financial activity. So there's no way I'm going to back down now. So it's kind of like I'm manipulating myself into moving forward.
Makes sense.
If that's how it works for you, then that's how it works.
Another cool thing is that it's a perfect demo, because now I get to see, it's like a little sneak peek of what a finished comic would look like in the future. So because I'm accomplishing that goal, now I'm going to feel a little more confident about the future, and more confident about my ability to complete another goal. Mm-hmm. So when you have those little hills set up and you keep climbing them, like, oh, let me finish the prologue. Oh, let me get it featured on a stream. Oh, let me get it featured in a comic. Oh, hey, let me write chapter 1. Hey, let me speak with an artist. You see, these things are adding up. It just went from one thing to 5 things.
Yeah.
For me, I found that when I create a deadline for myself, like especially if like there's something motivating me, like for this summer, my goal is to put out as many books as I can, at least about 5 books over the summer. since I have a lot of books that are nearly finished, and I have 3 drafts that are completely finished, and I just need to do a pass on them and edit them. So the plan is to put out another book at the end of the month, then another book in the middle of next month, end of next month, and then until the end, then the same until the end of August. Because there's currently a window of opportunity of a writers thing going on in Europe, where you, or in the UK, where you put in a specific contest keyword and you're entered in, and the prize is £20,000. And my plan is to put in as much content as I can into that specific market.
Mm-hmm.
And
sounds ambitious, but I'm sure you can do it.
yeah, thankfully most of it's thankfully, like, I don't have to like really struggle. There's only one book that like requires like a ton of work, and I can kind of save that for a little bit later since I've got most of the other books in the series finished. It's just kind of a weird place. It's kind of at a weird placement because that particular book is like halfway finished, whereas the other 3 are either 2 are finished, and those are the 2 before it, and then the one after it is like 80%, 80 to 90% finished. Since
I'd like to highlight 2 of Drake the Duelist's comments here. And you don't have to click on them. I can just read them offhand. Okay. Here was one thing that he said. The reason I want to read them is because he sounds much like myself. So he said, I'll build worlds all day, but when it comes to time to making the characters behave and talk like humans in front of the camera, he has a hard time. And whenever he gets into problems of focus, he writes side stories where they're off-canon side stories that take place in the same world so that he can play around with different characters. Drake the Duelist, I think that that's a good habit, but I also think it's dangerous because from my experience, that's what I was doing with that really big low resolution epic that I was working on. I was doing that for like a year. I would keep on writing little side stories and I would never finish them. So really all I was doing was just building a world forever and talking about it forever, but never writing a start to finish narrative that takes place within said world. And I don't remember who it was that said that, but they said something akin to that. They said, if you fall into that trap, you'll be building the world forever and never finishing a story within it. And then you'll become discouraged because you'll never accomplish a specific goal. You'll just be addicted to creating this world. You'll get that dopamine rush, and then it's gone. So Drake the Duelist, I recommend you actually be very careful with that because it can seem tempting, but I recommend you let that world sit and focus on something a little more specific, because that honestly, I think, made it less unlikely for me to become a professional writer. Because I'm still not that, but I feel much more encouraged now. So I'm going to let Drake the Duelist respond to that as he sees fit, but you can go ahead and continue, Dunn.
Okay. So essentially, like, what I was thinking of is we have a lot of resources at our disposal. And actually, the one that you were referring to was actually, I believe it was Brandon Sanderson, actually. Because he actually has said, like, that the thing that people connect to most are characters. And I think that's actually something that we could jump into. Kind of just Drake the Duelist. What would you say are like your primary difficulties with writing characters? And maybe we can discuss that for a second, since that sounds like an interesting topic.
All right. Well, how about while he's typing his response to that, let's go ahead and talk about it ourselves for a moment.
Okay.
So how about we start with Neph Champion, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
I keep calling her Neph Champion. That's the first time I've said it out loud, but even when I read her posts, I say Neph Champion to myself. I don't know why.
Oh, that's brilliant. I
Okay,
love it.
so creating characters?
Yeah.
Okay, how about we use the example that I articulate. I am not, obviously.
Yeah, you're fine.
Let's
You're
go.
good.
Let's go with the character that I proposed on the Discord. So
Okay.
she's
Put you on the spot there, huh?
a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so she's basically a blacksmith with a background in high school DxD style magic, which is what you can do with magic depends on your imagination. So she has really tiny reserves for her family, but her reserves also regenerate much faster than the average rate for a mage.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds out that she's basically pants at the quote unquote normal way of doing magic. So she
has to figure out her own way of dealing with things.
Yes. So she turns to the hobby that she found out that she really, really likes doing in video games, which is blacksmithing.
Mm-hmm.
And through experimentation, she finds out that she's actually really, really good at enchanting the weapons and the armor that she makes. So they're more durable, they're sharper, and they last longer than, say, someone who's had a couple of years on her experience. So she's really good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Okay.
My main
problem.
Characters.
I have characters, and I have a place they need to get to that makes sense in my notes. I need to get them from point A to point B in a manner that appears plausible given all known factors. Well, now we're getting into plot structure. So that's when you have to focus on conflict. Let's see. What killed one of my plot lines was that one character needed to convince another character of her perspective, but I didn't know the right words to give that character to let them make their point. Okay, well, I have a couple of things that I could say to that. First, consider that maybe the character, maybe that can be part of the issue, is that the character is having a hard time articulating their thoughts. And plus, always consider that you can always edit the dialogue later. You still know that in the plot structure, the character needs to convince another character of their perspective. So given that you've mastered the dialogue, you haven't yet, but just pretend you did for a minute. Given that you've mastered that dialogue sequence, think to yourself, okay, now what path do I want to take? Did she convince the other character, or did she fail to convince the other character? Now, what were the consequences? And if you get stuck and you're not sure what path you'd like to take, think about which one you'd like to try out first, and then go back and try the other one and see what story you prefer. Or if you want to get a little bit faster, because you can get better at it, you can get faster at it. Sometimes you won't even have to write both stories. You'll just know. It'll just come to you like that, where you can think about, Well, if you can actually open an Excel document and do this, you can look at the individual events and write summaries of each event along the story's timeline. Because I'm a planned writer, that's how I do it. I actually work much better when I plan my writing. I tried to become a discovery writer, and it just didn't work for me. But what I did realize was that I had a problem of planning so far ahead that I never got anything done. And that's getting back into world building and whatnot. But
yeah,
one thing that'll help is trying that out.
okay. So for me, when I'm creating a character, what I'll do is I'll figure out like, okay, what is this character? What's like, especially like if I'm starting, I'm gonna figure out like a vague background for said character, for instance, and kind of figure out, okay, how would they talk first off? They have an eloquent vocabulary. Do they have a background in certain fields? For instance, I have two very distinct and different characters. One is Brand Lightbringer and Boromir Stormbringer in Queen of Spring, my upcoming novel. Boromir is dyslexic. She can't read at all, but she's an excellent warrior and has to rely on other people. So she doesn't have however, she is able to pick up stuff, so has a relatively good vocabulary. Brand is a crippled mage who only has his legs dead. His legs have been dead from the time he was born, because his mother had to accelerate his pregnancy so that she could fight in the battle. However, he has a magical artifact that's an infinite library that he can look through. So he is more knowledgeable, but he's somewhat more socially awkward around other people than she is, because she likes being around other people because she's been a soldier for most of her life. So it's kind of a matter of kind of saying, okay, what is this character's personality like? Are they an introvert? Are they an extrovert? Stuff like that. Another example is actually Rayla Altharin in my upcoming Storm of Shadows book. Basically, what happens to her is she is a farm girl who's semi-religious, and she abruptly has an atheist magic user from roughly 1,000 years ago stuck in her head, and then I can create the interplay between them because one of them doesn't believe in anything and is now forced to come to grips with the concept of reincarnation, whereas the other one's having to reconcile that she's using magic, where she's been brought up to believe that magic is fundamentally evil and turns you to darkness. So
it sounds like you're not having any issues forming up your characters.
I think that's one of the things that I enjoy most. Another part of it is I like using. I picture it so clearly in my head, what they look like, how they talk, that it makes things easier for me to kind of bounce them off each other and figure out, okay, here's who these people are. How do I kind of play them off of each other? Are they a bruiser type? Are they an eloquent type? Are they like a promiscuous person? Are they a person who's asexual? What kind of preferences do they have? Are they an intellectual? Stuff like that. And from there, I can kind of figure out, okay, who is this person?
Somebody falling down the stairs?
No, that was my headphones.
Okay. Yeah. But does that all make sense, like how I described it?
Yes,
it makes perfect sense, because those are some of the hoops that you have to jump through when you're making a character. You have to ask yourself those questions, and then you close your eyes and you almost envision it like it's a movie. And then when you're watching the movie, you decipher for yourself, what parts do I want to be articulated in words when people read it? And if I didn't know about this, what would I imagine just from reading the words?
Yeah. Another thing that kind of helps is, what's their emotional state? Are they a bitter person? Are they like a relatively happy person? are they kind of apathetic to a lot of things? That helps a lot in figuring out how they talk, how they interact.
And then, sorry, I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just another another part is figuring out, okay, what are these characters' relationships? Do they know each other well? And if they do, what is one example might be in Mistborn. There are two characters, Doxan and Kelsier, and they have a very easy rapport because they're good friends. One is slightly more exasperated than the other because the other is slightly reckless due to his kind of belief in his own immortality, because he's survived a lot of really dangerous situations and got out of them alive. He just kind of believes, the worst is behind me. What more can be done to me? And Doxan's like, there's a lot of bad things that can happen. And they act as like a duo mentor pair for the main character.
Greg the Duelist is asking something that I was going to say something, but I feel like they should take priority. So another problem I suspect a beta reader would help with is exposition density. If I don't tell the reader things, how will they know? But if I spoon feed the reader everything, how much is too much? Well, I've had to wrestle with that for a while. It's part of the reason I've been editing the prologue to Wizard Slayer a little bit. Like, for example, so Lancer in my story, she is the student body president, and it was already established prior to a flashback. And then in the flashback, she mentions it again because she's introducing herself to another character. And I thought, well, A, does that seem natural? And B, does it seem necessary? And I came to the conclusion that it was neither. So then I omitted it, and she just says, I'm Lancer. And she doesn't introduce herself as student body president because it seemed redundant, unnecessary, and something that the person she was speaking to would figure out on their own. You have to think about how realistic does the speech seem, because people have very idiosyncratic speech patterns. We all speak in ways that are consequences of our upbringings and of our thoughts and how we carry ourselves. That's kind of what speech is. It's how we carry ourselves and how we communicate that to other people. So you're kind of like the messenger from the characters speaking to each other to the reader. You just kind of keep asking yourself those questions, and you let it sit for a while and go back. I usually don't worry about exposition until I go back to edit a little bit.
For me, when I'm working with exposition, I kind of try and think of, okay, what is a point in time where this information is relevant? And sometimes I'll kind of come up with it on the fly. Sometimes I will mostly kind of think of, okay, here's the plot. I need to get to these specific points. And as the story goes on, when stuff becomes relevant, I'll kind of slide it in. Another thing that you can do is, I actually did this with Lost Legion. What I did was, I knew that I was going to have a 500-year time jump, and I didn't want to dump in-text, in-world exposition on the reader. So what I did was, I had an in-world history book section at each of the POV breaks that either explain some of the history of the world, the magic system, or the character of Valkar Perion, the main character. Because I didn't want to bog down the story, so what I did was I put the necessary exposition that people needed to know about for the rest of the story in this section where, okay, this is where the and then I broke it off and changed to a different thing and just turned to sections of prophecy that are designed to set up for that book and the upcoming 2 books. That's what I used to kind of circumvent that particular problem, so that I didn't have to bog down things.
I got a question for you. So, are you referring to when you're writing an epic or something, you're reading rather an epic or something, for example, and then on the bottom of the page, it'll show a definition of something?
No. What? Let me pull.
You know what I'm referring to, though, right?
Yeah, a footnote. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me pull up Lost Legion real
Because sometimes
quick.
they'll have like next to the word they'll have like a little sometimes they'll have a little number, but then if it gets redundant they won't. And then at the bottom they'll have the footnotes regardless. And then if you want, the footnotes can actually direct you to the glossary that's at the back of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that reminds me of is when you're watching like an anime like Attack on Titan, and then they have the splash screens in between commercial breaks, and on the splash screen it's like telling you about something, like how something works.
Yes.
So for example, they'll tell you how their omnidirectional movement gear works, or they'll tell you where the Titans came from in the splash screen. And then you can choose if you want, if you're streaming it, you can pause it and read about it, and then you can continue watching the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like it's
That
an
makes
attempt
sense.
to immerse the person experiencing the medium, whatever it may be, without intruding upon the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, show me what
that's
you were
exactly what
referring
I
to.
did. Let me scroll down. It's gonna take a minute for it to load. Let me get in there. Dun, 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 dun. This is actually my first published novel, and I was very inspired by Mistborn and Brandon Sanderson when I wrote this. Those who have read Mistborn in the chat, if they read book 3, will kind of know what I'm talking about. I will not give away spoilers, but I think that you'll notice certain inspirations that I took, not necessarily ripping off, but very similar stuff because I like that idea. Okay. So, oh, never shot it ever so slightly. Okay, so let me see. Let me make this full screen real quick and zoom in a little bit. StreamYard sharing the screen makes things a little bit more weird. So let me see. Is it showing up on the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's shown up.
All right, cool. So this is kind of what I did to kind of figure out how to kind of inform the reader of what was going on in between when our main character is and I basically will differentiate between what is the in-world history book, which is right here.
By using italics.
Yeah, by using italics, as well as putting a title like up here. We have kind of says Chapter 1, Life and Damnation, then the Cataclysm, and then say compiled by so and so. That's the way that I figured out to kind of get rid of that, and then I just change it to regular font and run back into the story. That's how I figured out how to get rid of the exposition dump problem.
Very useful. That's funny. It reminds me of something that I was doing for a while. I'm not doing it with Wizard Slayer. I was doing it with my more lower resolution stuff that was really broad and hard to decipher, or at least hard to focus on. But I would actually have each chapter, well, not each chapter, but each scene rather, it would begin with a quote. And then at the end of the quote, it would say the name of the character and what area they were from, because it was helping me to build the world a little bit. And it was essentially, I was trying to make it almost seem like it was a history book in that way. This kind of reminds me of that, but it looks like what you were doing was more focused. Like, I can tell that it's something that you spent a lot of time figuring out how to incorporate it and why it needed to be incorporated.
Dunkelzan actually had a good question. So with pages like that, I would just pick a specific topic that I wanted to discuss in that particular section. That's
yeah, like when you put the cataclysm, that's the subject, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the specific subject of it. There are also like other subsections like magic, how mana works exactly. And then another one is the first problem, then the the first strife, then the second strife, in terms of things that made it so that these empires had to unite together. And so I just kind of made it so that, and I was able to spread it out over, think about 30 pages-ish, and just have a specific little bit of information specifically about a topic. And that's how I was able to do it. And you can also add more info, since in a couple of these things, the writer is writing from a reliable narrator. So there's an element of, okay, some of this stuff is not factual, or it is coming from a slightly biased source.
Nev, you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. So,
you hear her like across the room. Yep.
Dunkelzan, does that answer your question?
I can see just by the way you did it. It reminds me of exactly what they do with certain TV shows and anime, like specifically Attack on Titan, how in between scenes, like in between the commercial breaks, but with you, it's in between the chapters. You see a little bio, and it's perfect.
Well, I think we've talked about all of our, like, everything that we possibly can think of in regards to writer's block, and now,
or at least everything we're prepared to discuss on it.
Here we go. Yeah, at least everything we're prepared to discuss.
Hey, Neph, can you do me a favor?
Yeah, sure.
Whenever you need to fix your mic, can you tap that little mute button there?
Sure. I'm sorry.
Appreciate it. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. All right, Dunn, you ready for the next topic?
For the main event. Now for the main event.
Let's do it.
Me. Okay, let me now let me bring on our buddy.
Oh, Dr. Crow's got a question.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay,
how do you get motivated to write? How do you get motivated to write? That's a good question, Crow. What kind of personality do you have? Because I think it's different for all of us. But I think when it comes to writing specifically, that the most motivational thing I could say on it, or at least how I get myself in a motivated state of mind, is, I'll be honest, compulsion. Because I have somewhat of a need to create. It fulfills a desire in me that is very niche. Other things don't necessarily satisfy it. I have to create something. And like even when I was a child, I would make custom characters in games for hours. We've all done that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're
Oh,
here,
yeah.
because we all have that drive to create something. It's internal. But the difficult thing is how can you manage continuing to write a story when you're not feeling particularly motivated to continue doing so in real time? How can you
Okay.
predict how many words are going to be on that page next week if you don't know how you're going to feel in between now and next week? And I think that comes down to discipline.
Yeah, that's how it is with me. Part of it is kind of figuring out, okay, I have a goal for this many words that I need to get down, and that helps me to kind of figure it out. If it's like a digestible goal, like 1,000 words or 1,500 words, like I try to push myself and go to about 2,000 words a day. That's my hope. Sometimes I'll be after a stream, like we're covering like a video with Smo Boy, I'll be like, I'm tired. I need to kind of let my brain rest. You can totally do that. It's just a matter of kind of figuring out, like, giving yourself a little bit of time to say, okay, I need to get this much done. Another thing that my dad actually does is speed writing, where he will get to, like, say he gets this much amount of work done, and he wants to try and write as much as he can in the mood, and just goes on a just a stream of consciousness and doesn't edit anything, and he'll just go back and edit later. Blue, yeah, that's like what I do to get me in the mood to calm me down is actually just put on a podcast and write. That's what I do.
Because I can totally understand that feeling, because sometimes like you want to have just the right setting, but then other times it's like, well, are you stalling a little bit? Because then you don't want to see it too much as like this is an event. I have to prepare for this event, and then you want everything to be perfect. But other times that's exactly what you want to do: dim the lights, candles, soft music. That's mostly what I do. But other times I will put on a podcast. Sometimes I'll even write while I'm talking to somebody, because I want to get myself in the habit of being someone that writes regardless of what he's doing or what mood he's in. And I think that's part of building up that discipline a little bit. Becoming more fluid, more flexible. That's the word.
It's the same kind of thing with me. I find that I don't really have much trouble writing when I'm like saying listening to literature double, but I also will put on different kinds of music. If I'm like writing something like a battle, I'll put on say Through the Fire and the Flames or something or something similar. Or if it's just calm, I'll put on something like piano music. And I've got a whole bunch of piano music that I've got saved up.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I like
Dunkelzon the second,
I'm
forgive
waiting
me if
for
I
Gary
mispronounced
Stu.
that, is not being able to pick a text up again after putting it down a lack of focus problem. I can continue in the same world, and it's not necessarily because I dislike what I've written. I guess I write differently. It doesn't fit at all stylistically. If I remember where I was at all, what I write then just doesn't fit. I think that's a consistency issue. And I think that's more something that you can solve with editing, because you have to decipher in what manner does it not fit stylistically. Is it the dialogue that seems unnatural? Is it just that the wording seems inconsistent? Are you still telling the same story? It's not. You have to be able to separate editing from writing. Those aren't the same thing. If you focus too much on the words sounding inconsistent, maybe it's easier for you to not worry so much about that. Just keep it going. And it looks like we have Gary Stu on here.
Yep. Welcome aboard, Gary Stu. Good to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, you ready for the main event?
Yeah, I'm quite ready.
Gary Stu, you think you can
All right.
raise your volume a little bit? I don't know if you're on max yet or not.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, you sound. It's kind of like it
Alright,
sounds kind of like
cool.
you're being suffocated by a pillow.
Is this better?
Well, that's fine.
Much better.
That
Uh-huh.
works.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you're
So-
up here. Okay.
So
Shape of his head's wrong.
I- yeah. Yes. it is-
Let's do this.
Okay.
We're getting started. Sunglasses are wrong. Sunglasses
What
are
about
wrong.
the
Shape of his
ears?
head's wrong.
Oh, dear Lord.
His hair's wrong.
Every
The
He's
shape
not
of his
pale
nose.
enough. Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
pale enough.
okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna. So here's how this is going to be. So I am going to say that pretty much that how this is going to work is the picture that is in live action is the not character from the Artemis Fowl movie, because those are not this is not an adaptation of Artemis Fowl. This is a hodgepodge Frankenstein's monster bastardization of the book.
As
The
my
first 4
friend
books.
said, it's a
Ridiculous.
movie that takes. It's a different movie with the same name.
Yes,
Pretty much.
it is in.
Good
Yeah,
point.
it just happens to share the same
Yeah.
name. That's all.
Yeah. This is in
Drake
name
the Duelist.
only. This is
Movie
completely
Fowl
name
looks
only.
like a Men in Black agent got hit with a de-ager.
Yes. Essentially, they got nothing right. Artemis Fowl is in this movie. Artemis Fowl is a standard YA protagonist with a slightly higher than usual IQ for a YA protagonist, which is not unusual. Which is not saying much because most YA protagonists are not intelligent. I like YA movies generally, like Percy Jackson in the Percy Jackson movies. He's an idiot. He can't do anything at all. Katniss Everdeen is mostly a plot device in a lot of ways, who's being maneuvered around.
She's a MacGuffin.
Yeah, she is a human MacGuffin. That is true.
Makes me think of Spy Kids.
This is. I actually would rather watch Spy Kids than watch Artemis Fowl again.
Yeah.
I had fun watching
Spy
Spy
Kids.
That was a
It
fun
has
movie.
not aged
Right.
well. It has not aged well.
No, that CGI is gross. Though this movie CGI is far worse in places.
God.
But
I would first want to say that the actor, fucking, the poor child, his first movie and such a fucking hot, steaming garbage.
Yeah, it's so bad. Like it's got 13% in Rotten Tomatoes, still too high, but that's a killing. That's killing. That's movie killing right there. Like to use an analogy, if the audience is a deer, putting a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes on a movie is the equivalent of spraying wolf piss all over the theater to ensure that they don't come.
Yes.
Well, I think something like that happened in the Fall universe.
Yeah.
And the whole thing
Dude, that's
with
accurate.
the whole
You
thing with the fairy girl being his best friend. No, fairies are not nice. They are not nice. They are terrible because they are terrifying.
Yeah.
And if you do something to piss them off, not only do they hold a grudge, but they're going to screw you over. And depending on if it's a court or a courtless, you probably will not enjoy that they are screwing you over.
Yeah.
Fun
So-
fact with the screwing, Holy Short is about 90 centimeters long, so she's high enough to blow off Artemis Fowl.
Oh my God.
Okay, so speaking of Holly Short, I have 2 pictures up. One is the actual Holly Short, and the other one is the fake Holly Short in
Looks like
the
shit.
film. Yes, it does. She is it's okay. And then kind of going back to Artemis Fowl for a second. Artemis Fowl in the film is just is a pathetic, just non-entity of a character. He has so little charisma. It's insane. Why is this happening to me? Why is Prezi doing stupid things? Why is Prezi doing stupid things? Oh, what? Drunkle said it's down to 9? Dang.
Yeah, that's when you're down to single digits percentage-wise. That means that you're in deep shit.
Yeah, like that is absolutely insane. Because you have this, what could have been, like, that is the lowest YA adaptation I have ever seen. But we have, like, Artemis Fowl in the book. How would you describe Artemis Fowl in the book, Gary Stu?
That would be interesting. As I remember it, like from my first experience as a child, he was basically what every child aspired to be. Every adult that dealt with him was crazy. The child was a megalomaniac, billionaire, and just did crime. As a 12-year-old, it's everything you could ever imagine, and it was fucking amazing.
Yeah, he is a genius. He's a genius. But the thing is, he is always wearing a suit because he wants to appear more realistic. And in the movie, he's just wearing a t-shirt and jeans most of the time.
Also, I would like to point out that Artemis is chaotic evil based off the book Acta Fowl, where basically we get to see Artemis Fowl from the interactions of his teachers and psychiatrists, where he's just fucking with them for the sake, because it's the law of the universe that nothing is constant. So he fucks with them. He is chaotic evil.
Yeah, he messes with everybody. Like, and the first interaction is with Ungayan Swan, the guy who's escorting to the ferry. That's completely cut. Artemis is just given the utterly is handed the fairy knowledge by his daddy. He doesn't have to work for it. He doesn't have to figure out that, oh, okay, here's how this works based on the hieroglyphics. Here's deciphering the code. Drake the Duelist, yes, that is the equivalent of putting Seto Kaiba in jeans.
Basically,
yeah. Artemis Fowl is a more competent and sociopathic version of
Seto Kaiba in jeans. We're just gonna walk right over that.
That image is just so wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have the best of what's Artemis's personality. This is a book series for 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
In the beginning, he drugs a fairy, so the fairy almost dies by injecting it with holy water. If I remember correctly.
He gives her a thing of alcohol.
No, wait, alcohol. And cures her with holy water.
Spiced holy water.
Yep.
Yeah.
He just drugs a person he first met to get the knowledge from them. And that's a book for 11-year-olds?
It takes its audience very seriously, I think. This is, that's why I'm saying this character is a non-entity. Artemis Fowl is a genius and figures things out on his own. And apparently his dad was researching the fairies when in the book he's a captive of the Russian mafia, not Opal Cowboy. Opal Cowboy is Opal Cowboy's irrevocably ruined as well. Like, it's so utterly stupid that they're bringing in Opal Cowboy as the kidnapper of Artemis Fowl's dad to try and get this stupid MacGuffin thing called the Oculos, which acts as a Deus Ex Machina in the end to teleport Artemis Fowl's dad from the Arctic, where he is, to Fowl Mansion. How is that good writing?
It's not.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's so utterly stupid. Also, like the time freeze, there's no biobomb in this. It's utterly removed. It's basically, oh, there's a time freeze, and we go in and try and figure out a way to get Holly Short out. And there's no like, and it lasts for like 15 minutes. Like, and then like the fight with the troll is so stupid. That was so ridiculous. The troll in this looked like Rourke with AIDS. Just looked like Rourke from Harry Potter with AIDS. It didn't look. Yeah, his mom is dead. His mom's His mom is dead before the movie begins. It's just his dad.
She's supposed to be ill, mentally ill in her room, just constantly locked in there, crying or something, being depressed.
Or hallucinating.
Then get later hallucinating due to Opal Cowboy and time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they have to kill off characters' parents? Why?
Because it's Disney. That's what they do. It's their trademark.
Yeah. And also, like, his mom is his only redeeming feature. Like, that is the thing that shows you that this kid is not just a sociopath and gives him some measure of sympathy. Yeah, also, they don't understand how the time freeze works. Like, they barely spend any time in the thing. Like, they spend, like, a lot of time in there, but they cut out so much. They cut out so much of the interplay between Julius Root and just kind of sandwich it all together. And for some reason, Mulch is there throughout the movie. Like, he's the narrator, which is stupid in and of itself because you have him narrating the movie to this secret government agency or something that wants to know about Artemis Fowl Sr., who's apparently been involved in a lot of robberies when no, he was just selling product in the Russian mafia's territory. That's it. He is not an attainted criminal. He is part of a criminal empire that Artemis Fowl takes over. However, he is not caught by the stinking authorities. Nobody knows that Artemis Fowl Sr. is a criminal. Yes, Mulch narrates the movie. Yeah, they got rid of the biobomb. The biobomb does not exist. And there's internal and external time freezes, which doesn't make any sense.
Don't forget how Mulch is so fucking as big as the fucking troll.
The way you talk about the time freeze, it reminds me of, let's see, Chaos Control from the Sonic games.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is very much a child who is after money, but as well as to fix his mother by making a wish, by exchanging a little bit for a wish. A little bit of the money for a wish so that his mom will be better, because he wants her back. And that's Artemis Fowl portion of the rant. Now we have the next character on our list, Holly Short. Holly Short's character is completely different. She is changed from a tough-as-nails, no-nonsense cop who pushed herself ragged to keep up with the expectations of other people because she's the only female to one of dozens of pixie girls who are just in there, and she doesn't have to really. She goes to the Ring of Tara because her daddy, not because she needs to, but because her dad was killed there. And then she gets caught by Artemis. She doesn't even put up a fight. She just runs. Leprechaun is basically like Julia Root or Dame Judi Dench is not as nearly as good of a character as Julius Root. Like, she clearly is like trying to make the best of this, but it's clear that she knows she's in crap and it's not really giving much effort. She kind of sounds like almost like she's a chain smoker.
Which
She looks.
never.
I'm just gonna say it. She looks like a boy.
Yeah.
Oh God, they did that again. Now that I'm looking at it, I see it too. Oh God. What is wrong with these people and having a girl who looks normal?
Go ask Naughty.
I'm tired of this.
Gary Stu had something to say.
Maybe they were inspired by Naughty Dog.
Perhaps. Yeah, Leprechaun, they're all in green as opposed to the gray jumpsuits. So this
green is normally found.
Yeah, what's with this Peter Pan bullshit?
The core.
Yeah, it's BS. Yeah, and then also it's just this movie's killing my brain. Just even thinking about it is awful. Part of the issue that we have with this movie is that they are so rapid firing development. Like, Holly and Artemis are buddies by the middle of the film because they bond over daddy issues.
Did somebody just order a pizza?
No, that was my no, that was my doorbell. Somebody else will get it. I'm busy. So and Artemis Fowl lets her out to help him, and she helps him because they bond over the fact that their daddies work together to try and get the Oculus away from Opal Cowboy.
Isn't she supposed to hate him for most of the first 3 books of the series?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, that is why this character is like the shotgun development. So
it's almost
fast.
like they knew they wouldn't be able to make a sequel.
Well, they sequel bait real hard at the end of this.
Then what's the point?
I don't know. Opal Cowboy's still at large. Artemis Fowl says, "I'm a criminal mastermind." It's like, dude, sod off. You are not a criminal mastermind. You are a kid. You're a cutesy YA protagonist. You're basically Harry Potter with a slightly morally dubious coat of paint. A very thin coat of paint. And
he's like an uninteresting Peter Parker.
And
pretty much, yeah.
Saying you're a criminal mastermind is one of the stupidest things you could possibly do if you're a criminal mastermind. Because that's telegraphing who and what you are.
Oh, he says it via narration, so it's okay.
Good
No,
job.
it's
You just
not.
acknowledge that you committed a crime. Now we can legally arrest you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so utterly stupid. And then we have Mulch Diggums. Mulch Diggums is
amazing character who was ruined. One of the funniest in the entire book series. And look what it is. A fucking oversized
I now
dwarf.
understand why this is a problem.
Oh,
Because I'm not familiar with this. Now I
Yeah.
see why you were freaking out.
Yes. I was insanely angry with this because we get Bargain Bin Haggard with a horrifying CGI mouth, and I will subject you all to this because of you. I had to suffer. You have to as well. But we hear Mulch Diggums. It's perfectly exemplified by his first interaction with Dame Judi Dench as Julia Root. He just says, "What's your Gary Stew? Tell me if this sounds like the dialogue from the book." Here we have Mulch Diggums saying, "Oh, what was your name again? Maybe you can cut me some deals or whatever. What was your name? Dan, Judy, Elia. What was it? He doesn't even know her name."
He's been arrested so many times by Julius Root. They are eternal rivals at this point.
Yeah.
My thought on that is, wouldn't they be on sarcastically first name basis by then if he's been arrested that many
are in the book.
times?
It is exactly in the book, and he just casually calls Julius Root Julius to screw with him because he hates being called Julius. And he
Julie,
just says,
if I remember, because he hates the childish name or the female something.
Yeah, and he just says, like, he just messes with him, and Josh Gad, like, bless his heart, I don't know whether he's trying or not. Like, he's trying to be somewhat funny, but he also is doing a weird Christian Bale as Batman throat cancer voice.
It's feeding time scene, I fucking hate it.
Yeah, that's bad. Yes, they do have the goblins in the prison cell moment, Dr. Crow, but he's listening to Hooked on a Feeling like Star-Lord or some music. Some kind of music, and then the goblins come up to him, and it almost plays out verbatim, only the weird thing is he's already in Howler's Peak, which is just like that's supposed to be a threat that Julius Root uses while he's in a holding cell. And he just says, and got Howler's Peak, he's just in there just for no reason, as opposed to like a holding cell with a bunch of goblins. And yeah, it plays out mostly the same. It's kind of the only scene that's put in like verbatim. But then we have this.
Oh no.
Please
What?
no. I already know what you're putting in there. Please no.
What? What's he gonna do?
Hey, Yossi.
Oh my god!
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
You see?
What the fuck?
See what I mean? Horrifying CGI mouth.
That's just fucking nightmare fuel.
That doesn't even look right. Now that I'm seeing it side by side, that does not look right at all.
I hate how they used that he's shading
I
out
know you
dirt.
like to sanitize fairy tales, but you can't do that with the Artemis Fowl.
Yeah.
Oh god.
What
so
I hate
awful.
the most is that they used his ability to shit out tons of gases and dirt as a comedic view. In the book, he knocked out Butler with just one charge of his gases from eating the dirt. He knocked out the two men, the biggest, tallest bodybuilder in the world.
Yeah.
And in
Butler's...
here, they're using it as a comedy.
Yeah. Also, Roniel said, well, I'm not sleeping tonight or ever again. Yes. Yeah. Like, taking a look, like, as a comparison, and, like, you have Josh Gad putting his fingers into his mouth and CGI maneuvering his mouth open.
Oh, it looks worse than what you're showing.
Yes.
It's worse than what you're showing.
I hate
Yes.
the fact that even his tongue just changes size.
Oh, this is awful. Ooh.
Yes. Yeah. I will move it off to the. I will move it off that and kind of just discuss Butler. Like that fight with the troll was so stupid. It was just a CGI like mess with Artemis Fowl and the others involved in a fight scene. Artemis Fowl, Butler, like he knocks Artemis out of the way when the troll is hanging on the stinking chandelier and it collapses on Butler, and that's how. And the troll.
How? It's a giant fucking troll. How can a chandelier hold it?
Well, a chandelier kills it. Like it falls. Like it's a giant chandelier and it falls on him. So, you know that awesome
breaking through a shit ton of walls, being blinded several times, being shot by 500 caliber Smith and Wesson, and simple Chandler fucking murders him. That just loses all the fun stuff about the battle.
Yeah, Dr. Crow, they don't have the suit of armor. You know that amazing moment in the book? Yes, where Butler puts on a medieval suit of armor after, like, he gets gored, and then Holly heals him because she knows, okay, there is a troll here. If I don't heal this guy, we're gonna die. So Butler grabs a mason chain and a set of metal gauntlets.
It wasn't even like that in the books. He got knocked out and almost murdered, so she came to fight the troll herself to take revenge. But he basically KO'd her and almost killed her. And she
Dr. Crow wants in.
Heal him.
Okay. Dr. Crow wants in, let him in.
Alrighty, Dr. Crow. Dr. Crow won.
But she does it.
Alrighty, Dr. Crow. Alrighty, Dr. Crow. I will bring you in. You may rant. You may rant at will. You may rant. All right, Dr. Crow. Ready when you are. Alrighty, but yeah, you don't have the Okay, Dr. Crow, please vent your feelings.
All right. First, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'm about to have a total demon moment here. All right.
Here we go.
Okay, bullshit. Bullshit. I gotta turn the YouTube off. I'm getting echo.
I can rate the entire scene if you want.
Okay. I loved Artemis Fowl as a kid. It's been a while since I read the books. I'm definitely gonna have to reread the books after this. They took out the fucking suit of armor.
Yes.
And then they killed the troll with a chandelier.
Yes.
Apparently.
The butler unloads a whole fucking clip of a Glock in that thing's skull. In the book, the fight is balling epic, and in the end, he tosses it out a door and says, "Don't come back." It's the coolest fucking thing in the whole book, and they took it out. All for this stupid little plot about alien invasion or some bullshit, and they replace it with a mulch digging, stretchy Play-Doh mouth.
Pretty much, yeah.
That was disgusting.
They built up that suit of armor throughout the entirety of the book, too, if I'm correct. It's mentioned the moment we first go into Foul Manor. And it's like, there's a suit of armor. We just introduced a troll. There's going to be somebody in that suit by the time this book is done. And it is epic. It is the second to last thing they tried to get into that mansion.
That's Chikopi's
The point of the
gun.
entire scene with the troll is Holy Short records the entire fight of Butler versus how he kills the troll, and it becomes like the most famous video in the entire underground.
I know it's no. On top of all the bullshit that they do already, because they made Butler black. I don't know how that one flew over their head. God,
They inverted the colors accidentally.
Butler is the most epic character in that entire series. He is man incarnate. He protects Artemis Fowl because it's his job, and he actually comes to really love and respect the kid. And they took out the most epic moment of why you do not mess with the Butler family.
Yeah.
And it took both him and Holly to take the thing down in the first place.
Yeah.
So by deploying Butler, they also
reason,
deployed
Mulch-
the troll, which is supposed to be this huge, massive threat that it took the whole entire squadron of leprechauns to take down the first time they fought it.
Oh, the first time they fought it, it was just Holy Short, and she blinded him almost permanently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me give you an example of how they also screwed up. Mulch Diggums doesn't escape.
What?
Yes.
He faces
In the
no
middle.
death in the books.
No, he doesn't do that.
Rabbits.
He doesn't do that. Yeah, he doesn't do it. He doesn't. So he's working for art. He stays in Foul Manor the whole time.
Why?
And he's because they wanted Mulch Diggums and the good guys. He's in the scene.
They needed to make it a superhero thing instead of realizing it's a book about the villain.
Yeah. Also, he's in the fight with the troll running around.
No, Mulch Diggins would never have fought that troll. He would have taken that as the opportunity to GTFO.
Also, they draw attention to the fact that he's a giant dwarf throughout. It's a plot point that he would like to be small. Like there are actual dwarves that are about his size. They're about regular size versus Josh Gad.
Oh, good.
And like
That's
they
like
literally
an extra
like
kick in the
compares
balls.
Yeah, like it is. So also they say, kind of when Butler's name is, they call Butler Domovoy throughout the movie.
No, he's Butler.
Yeah. So his name is Domovoy in the books. Like that's his first name, but they don't tell his name until book 3 when he's on the edge of death.
Yeah, it's literally like his last thing because he thinks he's going to die. He's trying to pull up loose ends. And oh my God. And they just go ahead and say his name. No. Their business is professional all the way up to that moment. It's Mr. Fowl and Butler.
These people seem to have forgotten that not every single protagonist of every book is an actual good guy. What is wrong with these people?
The protagonist is just the one who pushes the story forward. Heroes are good guys.
Artemis Fowl is not a hero.
It's not called villainous protagonist for a very good reason.
Protagonist moves the story forward. Antagonist pulls the story back. It's supposed to be the counter. Oh.
The villain protagonist is called that way because the story is following the villain, not the good guy.
Yes, because it's from the villain's point of view. He's trying to get the villain from point A to point B, while the hero is trying to restore the status quo or keep the status quo as is. Yeah, something around that line. I don't know. I'm new to the whole writing thing a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's totally fine. But like, they ultimately like totally neuter Artemis Fowl as a character, and they neuter Harley. And basically, it's like Holly Short is ostracized not because she's the only female in Leprechaun, but because her daddy stole this MacGuffin thing called the Oculus.
I don't even remember her dad being an issue in the books. Like I said, it's been a few years.
He's dead. Yeah, he's just dead. Like he's irrelevant. He's irrelevant.
Did they even have the acorn in the movie?
No.
No, they don't even go over how the magic system works. Fantastic.
No, she's not in. She's up in like a study, and then Artemis Fowl just lets her out. Lets her out because he needs her help. She doesn't break out at all.
He's supposed to catch her because she's in a vulnerable moment. She's out of magic. She put is the only reason he catches her to begin with.
Well, the reason why so there's actually a weird thing where they turn off magic within the house, like auto turn off, rather than her planting the acorn. It's so stupid.
Okay, magic has an on-off switch now.
Yeah.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's stupid. And like the time freeze, like there's no bio bomb and there's no like clever
no clever way around it.
Subverting the intentions of the when they fall they like the way that they get it. Spoilers for everybody in the chat who has not read it, which probably is not that many, but basically how it works is he knows that there's a body bomb coming. He has read their playbook. He is aware of every move they're going to make. And then he figures out, using his mother as a test, he puts her to sleep and she vanishes. This is a setup early in the book but we don't know why.
Yes,
she's
very
gone.
early.
And then we see, and then when he gives them sleeping pills and then they vanish.
Butler almost snaps his neck. Just because he poisoned him.
The fairies are about to walk in and take everything, but then
they can't because they're not allowed in. They don't have right passage
because he is still alive.
Only Holly has the right because she's been invited inside the house when he took her in.
He never said that she is not allowed to come back.
Yeah.
Yep. And so he and that is how he beats the fairies, by utilizing their own rules and magic against them. That's how.
It's a wonderful game of cat and mouse. He's outthinking them on every point. It's supposed to be a stressful situation for them, and oh my god.
Yeah.
And because they got rid of the biobomb, they can no longer play with the fairies' magic and rules, right?
Correct. The biobomb essentially destroys all living life in a certain areas. It's their last go-to option when all else fails.
Basically, in the entire time stop frame, everything biological dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And for whatever reason, like Butler destroys. They create like a bunch of devices, and somehow Butler like grabs like him and Artemis Fowl are fighting the fairies.
Why is Artemis Fowl fighting?
Because they wanted him to be Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, insert.
No, Butler is the bronze. That's the point of Butler.
Yeah, and they basically he shoots one of the time freeze generators and makes it so that the time freeze will slowly disintegrate, meaning that giving them their time frame. That's what gives them their time frame.
It already had a time limit.
24 hours.
24 hours. This entire place will seem like this 1 hour for that period of time. I can't even think straight right now.
Yeah, like this movie is terrible. It took me 3 hours to watch this hour-and-a-half long movie, and it utterly destroyed me.
Thank God I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, I now need to watch it with you guys just to make you suffer.
I don't have Disney Plus in Europe. Thank God for that.
No.
I don't have Disney Plus either, and I don't want it.
I'm down to watch it just to rip it to shreds.
Yeah, we
well,
can
if we want to. Well, if we want to screen share, I can probably set something up.
All right,
let's do it.
We'll talk.
We'll talk later, but we probably need to wrap this up. Smudboy stream is going to be starting in a little bit, and I don't want to take everybody away.
Right.
If you don't mind, I'd kind of like to just kind of pimp it. I'd like to, part of the program that I wanted to do for today is also I wanted to kind of end with a little bit of a palate cleanser. At least I hope this is a palate cleanser of reading a section from my book, kind of just to pimp my content, I guess, to say.
Blue's got a good point.
Yeah.
That's
what is it?
Blue's got a good point.
I wonder if yeah. Let me.
It's very likely movie studios do this stuff all the time, Blue.
Yeah. Wanted to make this movie and just
They probably
Yeah,
saw a way to
essentially.
make some cheap cash fast and hired whoever on what.
Disney is known for sanitizing fairy tales. So, of course, they would sanitize Artemis Fowl.
Disney hasn't been good in a
Yeah.
long time.
No.
Yep.
It really hasn't.
It hasn't been good since the Renaissance in it. No.
Yep. So, one second. So, okay, so my voice is starting up in a little bit. So I'm just gonna read through. How about everybody pimp your stuff? And could you put the links to your stuff in the private chat so I can put it into the description?
Okay. Let's see.
I mean, I guess I could just give you my general stuff.
Yeah. If you have like a channel or anything, just put it in the private chat. If you have anything else while I read this out, just put it in there and I will put it in. And I want this to be a place where everybody who comes on can pimp their content without fail.
There's mine.
Alrighty.
There's my YouTube channel.
Alrighty.
Let's see here.
And there's my Twitter. Ugh, God. I can't believe they took out the fucking suit of armor.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's my channel. Right now, there isn't really anything up other than just a couple of test videos. I plan to have the audiobook for the prologue of Wizard Slayer up when I get the chance. I just keep finding ways to improve it, so it never gets done. But that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Let me see. Okay. Having a little bit of trouble with the description. I'll figure this out later. But so this is prologue of Storm of Shadow, Book 1 of the Dark Champion trilogy by B. Malachi Dunn. Prologue, Ripping the Barrier. The platform of the Collean Doll Amphitheater was made of smooth white marble, surrounded by row after row of seats, each one filled with an eager participant avidly anticipating the completion of years of research. Unable to keep her eagerness under control, Maria Aranail tapped on the small bone rod amplifier against her palm impatiently. Bedivere, her research partner and husband, practically skipped up the steps, surprisingly light on his feet despite his impressive height and soft bulk. "It's really happening, Maria," he remarked, clasping her dark hand in his pale one and shaking it vigorously. "We're finally going to unite the twin sides of the power." She smiled and nodded, and couldn't help glancing around the amphitheater. Could Elle be there already? As she searched, her eyes caught a tall man with deep brown eyes and blonde hair. Gaius Lucius Telamon himself, sitting in the crowd, an officer with light blonde hair sitting near to him. Likely his minder to make sure that he didn't hurt anyone in the crowd, let alone Ella, the tall blonde woman who'd been watching next to Maria's daughter. Rage sparked inside Maria, but he controlled it carefully. Not now, not in her hour of triumph. Just as she looked away, she caught sight of Belle, her teenage daughter, sitting next to her current boyfriend, and Ella, who was taking care of Elle during the experiments. Maria smiled and turned back to Bedivere. Through practice motions, she pushed her emotions away and opened herself up to the source. Slowly, she reached out to the Isissa, the essence of the female power, half of the immeasurable force of the gods, luxuriated in the pure life, her whole frame vibrating in time with the music of the universe. Taking control of herself, Maria created a construct around her mouth to alter the volume of her voice. Today, we will open a portal within the very fabric of reality, she declared. Today, we gain access to a new source of power, able to do things heretofore undreamed of with our own mundane power. The crowd erupted in cheers. Absently, she recognized her lawyer, Charisse, a tall, short, striking, dark-skinned woman in a stylish business suit, radiating with potential. Next to her sat a woman with a dancer's build, thin sandals clinging to her feet. Both of them watched eagerly. Slowly, Maria reached out her magic to Bedivere, who allowed her to use his connection to Cyrus, the instance of male magic, and meld the flow of power with hers. The two halves of Delphan, the eternal source of magic, fit together like opposing pieces of a puzzle. The higher-pitched lyrical essence of Isissa matching the rock-hard, more bassy, throbbing timbre into the symphony of Cyrus. Like a singer accompanied by a cello or a harpsichord by a low piano. Slowly, she went through the process of closing the gap between her and the strange metaphysical barrier preventing them from interacting with the new source of power. She drew deeply on Isissa and on Cyrus from Bedivere. Carefully, she felt at the barrier with her magical probes, trying to sense a weak spot. Something was seething just beyond sight, like a leviathan in the Tempest Sea, straining against the barrier between them. "Let me loose," a voice crooned to her. Instantly, she felt something stirring inside her, a familiarity, a sense of ecstasy surpassing even the pleasure of Isissa and Cyrus. Slowly, a third light appeared within her mind as she pressed against the barrier. She reached out to it, adding to the immense flow of power within her. In an instant, this new source suffused her with a violent, staccato noise, filling her with pain and ecstasy like she had never known. Bedivere dropped to his hand, holding his head and screaming, whether in pain or extreme ecstasy, she couldn't tell. The barrier thinned to a hair's breadth, allowing her to see within. And once she caught sight of it, she started screaming as well. It was nothing, a void, a lack of anything that she could describe with words. "Let me free." The thing that was the nothingness just beyond the barrier screamed eagerly, clawing at her mind, trying to force her to use the power to rip open its prison. She drew deeply on all three powers, trying to remake the barrier, but the thing beyond it tore it open before she could finish repairs. Snarling, she drew deeply on all three powers, then grasped the creature in a grip form with its own power. She attempted to force it back, but somehow it resisted her efforts. "All right," she growled, fighting the pain of the alien third power and drew more deeply on the power she knew. With a tremendous effort, Maria blasted the darkness with a burst of power, splintering it into shards of energy. Before it could reform, she blasted the shards apart, throwing it everywhere. The violent power raged inside her, and she felt the pain in building up from her own powers. Bedivere was still holding his head in his hands, screaming as if he had seen his own death. She withdrew her link from him, but somehow she could still draw on the male half of the source. Drawing on every last bit of the power, she splintered what remained of the dark energy. As she screamed one last time, three powers overwhelmed her, and she was obliterated. And what was forged by the champion was shattered, and the darkness began to dwell in the hearts of men. She who sought to save us betrayed us to the shadow, and we should have followed, and those we should have followed turned us to their own whims. Kingdom rose where all had been equal, and the dead were heaps and mounted of Carrion, until the shadow's dragon rose and took his place as the leader of those who had forsworn morality and humanity for power, bound together with the serpent, the ape, the leopard, and the leviathan, and his will was theirs. From the records of the free cities, the 3rd century of the 9th Age.
You're in love, guys. Whenever you slur each other.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yay. It was good. I liked it.
That is really good.
Quite immersive.
It's almost like you're a professional writer.
Yeah, you might think it, right?
Yeah.
I was certainly at the edge of my seat the entire time.
Oh, that's good. I'm
Oh,
glad.
So is that already on Amazon?
No, that is something that will be released later on. I'm just building the hype for it right now. I'll also be giving stuff for my other various published works as well as unpublished work, and just picking the juiciest sections to read.
Ooh, juicy.
Yeah.
Very juicy.
So, yeah, to answer your question, Drake the Duelist, I believe that we are having. I believe I am. Let me check my Discord. I have a schedule out. I believe. Let me see. I think it's. I believe it's actually you and me chatting. Adding tomorrow, I believe. I am planning on just helping you with chatting about your book and helping you work through it. Does that sound agreeable? Cool. I believe I just get in contact with me via Discord, and I will chat with you then. And thank you to all my guests, Zoko Ona, Zokai Zero, Neph Champion, and Dr. Crow, and Gary Stew. I very appreciated having you on the stream with me.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes, it
It was an honor
was.
to do it again.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm very glad that everybody was able to come on, and that there were only minimal technical difficulties. I will kind of conclude the stream right here so that everybody can go over and watch Smud Boy. And I hope that everybody will be able to have a good time. And thank you very much for coming on this first episode of the Dunn's Writing Seminar. I very much appreciated having you on. Thank you very much. I will see you. Yes, Drake the Duelist, I am talking to you. Yes. And I will see you next. I will see you tomorrow. Adios. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Najee,
Have a good day.
Najee.